I get it, you scroll through endless espresso machine listings, see those glossy photos of polished metal and sleek digital screens, and start picturing a Keflevel brew happening on your kitchen counter. Then the reality hits. You buy a machine that looks like a work of art, only to discover the pump is noisy, the temperature swings, or the steam wand just can't froth milk the way you need for a latte. It's a cheap mistake that costs both money and confidence, especially when you're trying to step up from a drip coffee maker to a proper espresso rig. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review, I'm going to walk through what the Turin Gallatin RHX actually does for a home barista, where it shines, and where it might leave you wishing you'd read a little more before clicking add to cart. First off, the Gallatin R is built around what many pros consider the gold standard for reliability, a commercial-grade rotary pump. Unlike the cheap vibratory pumps you see in the $200, $300 entry-level machines, a rotary pump runs smoother, produces a steadier pressure profile, and crucially doesn't degrade as quickly with heavy daily use. For someone who plans to pull several shots a day, that architecture translates to less pump whine and more consistent pressure, which is a big part of getting a repeatable shot. The downside? Rotary pumps are bulkier, and they add a few pounds to the overall weight of the unit, so you'll need a sturdy countertop space that can handle the extra mass. What really differentiates the Gallatin R from other home-friendly rotary machines is the integrated flow control. In practical terms, that means you can fine-tune the water flow while the shot is extracting, something you'd normally need a separate aftermarket device for. If you love experimenting with brew ratios, say, pulling a 30 ml ristretto versus a 40 ml norma, you'll find that knob useful for dialing in that final milliliter without resetting your whole machine. It's a subtle feature that shines in everyday use. Imagine you're making a single espresso for a friend and you notice the crema is a touch thin. You can quickly adjust the flow to slow down the extraction and coax out more oils, all before the shot even finishes. For novices, however, that extra control can feel like an extra layer of complexity. If you're happy with a straightforward press-and-go operation, you might find the flow control knob something you never touch, and that's fine, it just sits there as an optional perk. Temperature stability is another area where the Gallatin R aims to impress. The machine houses a PID controller, letting you set the brew temperature to within a degree or two. In isolation, a PID isn't magical. It simply reduces the swing you'd see in a cheaper thermostat that could be off by 5-10 C between shots. What matters is how that stability shows up in the cup. In my testing, I noticed a tighter temperature window gave me a more predictable taste. The espresso tasted less sour and more balanced, especially when I was pulling back-to-back shots for a morning espresso marathon. If you're a coffee geek who tracks the numbers on your grinder and the ambient room temperature, that level of control feels like a rightful inclusion. If you're just after a decent espresso without needing a thermometer, you'll probably never notice the difference, but you won't be penalized for it either. One of the recurring hassles with home espresso machines is the steam wand. Many users complain that a 3-hole tip sounds fancy but actually just sprays milk in a thin, uneven stream, making latte art a chore. The Gallatin R's steam wand is designed with a 3-hole configuration that, in practice, produces a richer, creamier microfoam when you properly purge and position the wand. I tried it with both skim and whole milk, and the result was a silky texture that held a latte art rosette for a few seconds before flattening. The key is the temperature control, because the machine lets you dial the steam pressure and watch the temperature on the digital display. You can avoid overheating the milk, a common mistake that leaves foam tasting burnt. That said, the wand isn't a fully automatic frother. It still requires a steady hand and a bit of practice. If you're looking for a push-button latte experience, you'll need a separate automatic frother. Speaking of the digital display, it's more than a status screen. The Gallatin R shows you pre-infusion time, brew temperature, and even lets you store a couple of favorite settings for quick recall. For a home setup that doubles as a teaching tool, say, you're showing a friend how to pull a perfect shot, the display becomes a visual aid. It's also helpful if you're using a grinder that can deliver different dose profiles. You can match the brew temperature to each grind setting without guessing. The only real drawback is that the interface can feel a bit techy for someone who prefers analog dials. It's not a touch screen, but the menu navigation does involve a few button presses that